Hey everybody, it's Mother Ann Schneer from Trinity Episcopal Church in Marshall, Michigan. It's about 9 o'clock, so that means it's time for our end of day check-in, our prayers, and our song. And right now we're virtually walking through the Camino de Santiago that Matthew and I walked last year. Instead of me catching you up on what I did today, which is not nearly as interesting. So today Matthew has his Dungeons and Dragons group. So the setup is a little bit different because I'm flying solo. So instead of using OBS with Matthew at the console, we're using StreamYard where I can manipulate things on my own with just one kind of weird setup. So I hope you'll bear with me. It won't be quite as smooth as it normally is, but I'm sure that'll be okay. Also, I see that Wendy is here, so hi to Wendy and hi to Pat. I am going to share the stream real quick so that people can find us more easily. Let me make sure that I have my volume down also. Not too shabby. Sometimes it creeps up on its own somehow. I see Debbie is here also. Debbie from Georgia and not Georgia Debbie, Michigan Debbie. And Mama J is here also. Okay, so I'm going to say, hey, y'all. I've got Georgia on the brain. Our virtual, autocorrect did not like that. Virtual Camino continues. There we go. And posted. Fabulous. Now, I don't need to cheat with having a second screen here to read the comments tonight. I just need to remember to get my eyeballs over to the side. So that might make things a little simpler for me tonight. Possibly. We'll see. Let's see. So hi to Debbie and hi to Sharon. Wonderful to see all of you. Let's see. So I think we can dive right in. Oh, and I see George is here too. Hello, George. Nice to see you. So what I have, I'm doing a screen share thing, and just because I'm not quite sure how the audio works when I'm sharing my screen, I'm going to leave my face up this time rather than have the picture take over the whole screen. So let's see. I think we want a bigger picture than that. There we go. Then we can see better. And if I do this, can I make this bigger? Let's see. Add album. Nope, I guess not. We're just going to leave it this way and go. Oh, I think there's another way. Let's see here. That's better. Okay, so this is the shot of the guidebook that we were in from my guidebook. So you can see what our path was like. Not, had some ups and downs, but not nearly as bad as it was the day before. So we're starting here on the left where it says Puente la Reina. And yes, there were definitely some ups and downs. We ended up in Estella at the end of the day, but we weren't climbing a mountain like we were the day before. And then here on the side, you can see how windy the path got sometimes just to avoid dangers, trying to cross a bridge over water, but using a footbridge instead of a highway bridge, that sort of stuff. And so that was the path that we took. And I see that Kathy and Joan and Noreen are here also. Nice to see all of you. So that's kind of the overview. So we woke up in our albergue. Sorry. Sometimes the computer's a little slow and I click too fast. And you can tell that it's early morning because we have that sort of orangey light hitting that church tower as we went through. And as we got closer, we could actually see, so you see those bells I was talking about that are not fully sort of enclosed the way they are like at Trinity, where we have a bell tower and we have an actual bell in the tower, but there are wooden slats in the windows to protect it from the weather. Here they are exposed, but you see up here, this was the first time I think we started to see stork nests. And it took us a while to figure out what those were, but indeed those were storks, and we saw them nesting in the church towers, the bell towers, over and over and over again. And we found out later that a lot of churches actually purposely leave the storks. They don't disturb them because they see the stork as a symbol of Christ. And those of you who have been in Trinity on a day when I'm preaching about the stained glass windows, we have a picture of a pelican in our stained glass that also is supposed to represent Christ. And for the same reason that in times of food scarcity, the mother is, by legend, she will pierce her breast and let her blood flow so that her chicks can nourish from her body. And that is one of the ways that people will sometimes look at nature and point to Christ, who sacrificed himself for our nourishment, for the good of all humanity. So it was very interesting to be in a different country and have that metaphor continue. So we saw lots of these really beautiful church doors. You see these doorways with the sort of concentric circles coming in, giving a sense of even greater perspective as we went. And then this puenta, I believe, means bridge. And this is an old medieval bridge. And I'm not even sure what this part does, but it was just a very interesting thing that was there and was preserved as you started to walk on the bridge. So this is the bridge itself that I believe gives the name to the town, Puenta Lerena. And you can see that the sun is still rising. The bridge, as you go up it, is as you start to walk on it, is still in shadow from the mountains in the town. And then you see that the hills on the other side are starting to catch a little bit of sunlight as the sun rises. Casey, baby, you got to go lay down. You're going to pull cords out. Go lay down. Go lay down. It's storming here, and I'm talking to a computer, and he's a little uneasy about that. So then again, as the sun rose, it was just so beautiful, and we got to catch some really beautiful shots of the sunlight and the flowers. And then this was another. We kept kind of taking pictures of interesting features as we went by. So here is a very interesting looking door, and here on the side over here, I think this is a symbol of the state that we were in Spain. That would pop up every now and then. And then this is some sort of a seal or a crest on the other side. But you see these doors are really heavy duty and quite beautiful. And then, of course, I found a snail buddy, so I had to take a picture of this guy and then walk carefully around him. The snails were out and having a great time getting to where they were going. The landscape, of course, continued to be beautiful. And where we were, we got to see these beautiful yellow flowers, which were also quite fragrant and lovely to walk past. And of course, being away from my family and from my dog for a while, it was really fun to see any sort of reminder of Casey. So I got to see this very friendly looking German Shepherd on this Cuidado con el perro, probably means beware of the dog or something like that. Perro, I know, means dog. I think cuidado means caution or danger or something like that. But I wasn't going into that spot, so I didn't have to look it up. And then as we went on, it was still very beautiful, and we saw a lot of olive groves. So that was neat to start to see a different crop pop up rather than the wheat that we had seen the previous couple days. And you see there's a couple poppies growing here. So that was neat to see that color in the landscape as well. And then as we would continue on, we would be walking through all of this farmland and olive groves and grape fields or vineyards. And then, of course, there would be sort of this town rising in the distance, and depending on the time of day, you would really look forward to that, because that meant either you could get a bathroom break or a cup of coffee or even breakfast. So we were always really excited when we would see a town. And then, of course, it also helps to sort of check off where you are as you go through on the path, or on the way. So here, as we got closer, there were a couple gals who were taking pictures of each other in front of the town, sort of like it with the town as in the background. And so I stopped, and they didn't speak English, or I mean, I forget even where they were from, but I didn't speak their language, but they spoke enough English for me to offer to take their picture. So I took their picture with their phone, and then they offered to take pictures of me with my phone. So I didn't specifically need a picture of myself in front of this specific town, but it was lovely that they offered. So I acquiesced, and it was very nice. So because I don't have a whole lot of pictures of me, even though I was doing all the walking. And as we continued on, we would see these interesting symbols, this encouragement that we were on the right way, that we should continue on. So someone just painted this on a couple bricks in a wall or in a building. And we would still see interesting things. Here, you have this seal, which is kind of fun, but then up above, you see a drain with a little gargoyle in it. And remembering, of course, gargoyles get their name from their open mouths at a downspout so that the water comes out of their mouths. So you see, we actually get to see that on, yeah, I've seen them on churches and things, but I hadn't seen one on like a little building like that. So that was kind of neat. And as we went through, this particular town was sort of built into these really, really steep hills, and was very, very old. And this looks to me like maybe a baptismal font once upon a time, but it was behind like a metal gate. So that was really interesting just to see that they had put that, shut that off, let it remain, but they were protecting it. And then the other very strange thing that we saw was a self-serve stamp, so that as you went by, you could pull out your credential and you could stamp it yourself. Normally, you would have to stop and a shopkeeper or a cafe a waiter or waitress or somebody working in the albergue, they would stamp for you. But this one was just self-serve. So Matthew and I both stopped. Actually, at different times. We were walking separately at this point, but we both took pictures of this too. So I think this is maybe a Matthew picture, and he took the superior picture this time. So then we went through, and you see the landscape and the hills. I think this is looking back at the town. So we had to kind of go up that hill. Through the town, which was really, really, really steep. I mean, I couldn't believe that they built houses in that. And it was one of those where I was so tired going uphill that I didn't take pictures of going uphill. But then you kind of came through, went down over here, and then the road kind of cut down this way, and you were walking downhill again, and you went over this little bridge. Which was a lovely little bridge. And it was just gorgeous, just beautiful, beautiful landscape. And then someone caught up with me that I wasn't expecting to see. I got to see my friend from Taiwan, who was so excited to see me the day before. And so she was really, really excited to see me again. And this time, I asked her to take a picture so that I could have a picture. And she was very, very happy to do it. And she gave me a gift, which was so sweet. She gave me a cough drop. And it was just so sweet because I wasn't coughing. There was no practical reason. It was just a very sweet gift that she gave me in Thanksgiving for our moment the day before. So it was just a really cute little encounter. And then I think that was the last time I ever saw her, because she was just walking faster than me. And what would happen is, if we didn't end up, with everybody, if they didn't plan on ending in the same town that I was ending in, they would just continue on. And then I literally wouldn't see them again unless they took a break, a rest day. And I caught up with them. So I never saw her again, but it was really sweet that she gave me that gift. And then I found myself, as I was walking, really tired, really hot. And I see Joan has a question. Joan is asking how many miles I walked in a day. Usually we would walk between 12 and 18 miles. It was between 20 and 30 kilometers. There were some days that were really hot, so we stopped early. And I think the shortest day that we ever had was that first day that was 6 miles, because we were going basically straight up in the Pyrenees Mountains. But even later, we had those very hot days where we stopped at about noon or 1 because the heat was deadly hot. It was really, really dangerous. So we stopped walking very early. And those days we only walked maybe 9 miles, 10 miles, something like that. But mostly we were between 12 and 18. 18 was a long day. We only did that about twice. So as we were walking, I found myself staring down and just kind of trying to power through. And I realized as I was walking that I was missing all of the scenery and all of the excitement and, the stories and the people, if there were still people around at that time of day. So I actually took a little picture here of the ground to demonstrate that this is what I had been looking at. And this is what I was missing. So it was a reminder to myself and to people at home that we it's good to focus, and it's good to make sure that we don't fall or twist our ankles or get hurt. But it's also important to take in the scenery. So I tried to make sure that I looked up as much as I could. Joan is asking how many days. So we scheduled 35 days for the Camino. And we had to do that because there were Matthew was teaching and he couldn't get out. He wasn't going to end his school year early. So he basically worked all the way up to the end of his school year and then got on a plane the next day. Maybe it was 2 days later, but it was really soon after the end of his school year. I don't remember if he actually did this, but we talked about him actually submitting grades from the plane on the plane Wi-Fi. And then because of other scheduling things at the end of the summer and school starting earlier, I think school was supposed to start earlier in the fall of 2019 than it had in previous years. We wanted to make sure that we could fit in other things like a trip to Disney World for Phoebe. So we only scheduled 35 days, and that had no rest days, which was not what we would normally, that is not what I would recommend. Matthew and I are already talking about doing this again. And if we do, we would like to schedule 40 days of walking plus a weekly rest day where we can stop and actually take in the culture and enjoy recovery, enjoy the local towns, and not feel so pressured with our timing. So as we went, you see the landscape is starting to change again. It's getting a little more uppy, downy, and winding. We still have another town there off in the distance. But we came upon this olive grove that's, it says, Paraiso e Construcción, Paradise in Construction. So there's a young man who decided that he was going to excavate a Roman road and revitalize an olive grove. And he has made it a place of respite for pilgrims. It runs on donations. And Matthew and I both passed through it, but at different times. So when Matthew passed through it, if you look over here on the right, there were a whole bunch of people resting under those trees. And then up on the left over here is a little kiosk where the guy who runs it had all sorts of beverages and wine and fruit and vegetables and bread and all sorts of things to kind of refresh us. By the time I got there, there were very few people left. This is what it looked like when I got there. So almost no one. But I actually did run into a couple people that I knew, but it was wonderful to have a place. Casey, baby, you gotta go lay down. Go lay down. Go on. You're gonna pull out some cords. Go on. Go lay down. Good boy. So it was nice to be able to sit in the shade, have some water, chat with a couple people, and then get going again. And you see there are little garbage cans. He's got little benches. He has these beautiful little areas set up. It's a really, really neat thing. And you can actually go and you can donate your time and help him out. You can work in his in his little respite area, or you can help with the road. And here is what the road was looking like. I mean, he would actually go and take dirt off of that road and expose the stones and the ruts. And you see, we would run into this quite a lot. There are these stones that run kind of in the middle that help with the structure of the road. So it's just fascinating what he was doing. And after I got past the olive grove, the walk started to get very hard. It got very hot. There wasn't a lot of shade to be had anymore. And so I would walk and walk and walk. And I finally took a break, and this is under a bridge. I took my shoes off and I was giving my feet a rest. And then a couple other people walked by and asked if I was okay, which was really nice. They were from Italy. And I said, oh, yes, yeah, I'm okay. I'm okay. Bueno is they didn't speak a lot of Italian, or they didn't speak a lot of English, and I speak almost no Italian. You know, I can sing to you in Italian. That's all I can do. But we had enough Spanish to kind of link together between us. So they made sure that I wasn't injured. And they said to put my feet up on the side of the bridge because it would be cold. And gosh, were they right? It was so refreshing. So I laid down under that gritty bridge, put my feet up, and then you see there's a little snail buddy that I didn't even see until I stopped and put my feet up. So that was really fun to see. So I took my little break and then continued onward. And saw this really neat structure. It's not a bridge. It's a, oh, what do they call it? An aqueduct. Thank you. I could not remember. But I hadn't seen these elevated before, so it was just really kind of cool to see that. And then, of course, as I walked underneath it, I got this really neat picture just to see the construction and the engineering there. And then there was one bridge that I went under that was actually, it's a series of two bridges. It's a really cool picture. This light area is actually a gap between two bridges. So that was, anytime you went under a bridge, it was nice because it was sheltered from the sun. So it was nice and cool, very refreshing to get through. But again, there I was out in the middle of nowhere with very little shade, very, very hot. This day, I confess, I actually ran out of water. Matthew and I both had water bladders that went into our backpacks, and they held 3 liters of water. So the reason I ran out was because I had not been drinking all 3 liters any day yet. And I thought, well, why carry what I'm not going to drink? So I only filled it halfway, which was a big mistake. And I never did that again. I ran out about 45 minutes before I got into town. So I was never really in danger. I was just uncomfortable. It was just inconvenient, but it was definitely a learning curve for me that I made up for the next day when I took extra water. And that story will have to wait till tomorrow. But yes, it was definitely getting very hot, and there was not a lot of shade. So by the time I got to this little park on the way into town, it was just really, really beautiful. And you wanted to just go swim in it, even with the algae. But I didn't, of course. I continued on. And as I was getting into town, there was this other really interesting little thing. It's kind of hard to see, but this sign that is hanging on the tree, it says fruit, and then a skull and crossbones, and toxic. So I don't know if the fruit is actually toxic, if there was something going on with that land, or how the tree was treated, or if they were just trying to scare off pilgrims who will sometimes eat the fruit off of trees that they can find. I saw that quite a bit, that people were just taking fruit, and it never felt quite right to me to do that. So I don't know if the fruit was actually toxic, but I wasn't going to try to find out. But as we went, here's a little fountain. And again, because it was out in the world and not coming from a faucet, I didn't drink from it, but I thought it was very pretty. And there was a bench there to sit down, which was nice. Oh, it's telling me that there's a video that it can't play, but there's no video there. But there is, the star and the Camino shell, and again, the gourd and the staff. And it says, let's see, buen pan, excelente agua y vino, carne y pescado, llena de toda felicidad. So good bread, excellent water, and wine and meat, I think, and fish. I don't know what llena means, but toda felicidad means complete happiness. So that was kind of a nice little encouragement to read on the way. And as I got into town, here's another one of those gorgeous church doors with the sort of forced perspective going in, those rings that get smaller as you go toward the door. And then we had another, and you can actually see a little bit if you look real close. The big doors here are not the doors that would open typically on a regular day to get in. There's a smaller door within that door that you can open. And tomorrow, I think it's tomorrow, we'll see a picture of Matthew using one of those smaller doors. But here also was just a fascinating door. I don't know how old that thing is or what all has been nailed into it, but it just looked really beautiful and interesting. And you see there are hinges that are hinges and door pulls that are added there. And then I think this door knocker here is by legend supposed to resemble the hand of Fatima. So it's just kind of interesting to read more and more, because you would see that hand style knocker in all sorts of places. And then finally, at the end of the day, I got to the albergue that Matthew had gotten for us. And actually, you can see in the reflection, there's Matthew and there's me. And I liked this sign because here we have our peregrino here, our pilgrim, and cut out of him is the word albergue. So I just thought that was kind of an interesting wood carving. And then our last picture here today is Hospital Peregrinos. So I forget if this is even the same place or not, but it was just, again, you got to see the shell and the sign. So that was our day going from Puente La Reina to Estrella. Let me see, I'm going to get out of screen share mode there. Here we go. That looks like that worked. So tomorrow, as long as we're still having fun, I will share more pictures, and we'll go kind of day by day. And it doesn't need to be long, but some people seem to be enjoying the pictures and the stories, so we can keep doing that. That's great. So the next thing that we have is our prayers, so we can do that for sure. And I see that Mama J just added a prayer, so I'm going to add that real quick. Dr. John McClay. Here we are. Wendy says, keep them coming. I will do. And I think today is Chocolate Eclair Day, right, Wendy? I think that's the wacky holiday for today. John McClay. There we go. All right, are you ready? Okay, so today we are praying with special intention for the family of Vicky Weekly, for Mama J, especially regarding her voice, for Ward, the Standing Committee of the Diocese of Western Michigan and the Diocese of Eastern Michigan, Gretchen, Donald, the Kent family women, David, Jennifer, Joni, Knox, Troy, Kristen, Bob, Lisa, the Cosgrove and Carrison families, Tim, Susan, Vicky, Naomi, Kay, Chad, Marvin and Jane, Kayla and Andrew, Luke, Katie, Wayne, Dana, Anna, Carol, Mike, Kimberly, and the family of Dr. John McClay as well. We're praying also for the leadership and the people of Zion Lutheran Church here in Marshall. We're praying for our parishioners. Here we go. So today, for our directory prayers, we're praying for Charles and Denise, Joyce, Mary Ellen, Shirley, Dwayne, Jim and Nancy, and Ron and Jane. We're praying also for all public safety officers, especially police, fire, and sheriff departments, for hospice workers and patients, all who are sick and those who are caring for them, for Oaklawn, Bronson, and Borges hospitals, their patients and their staff, and for Medalodge, also known as Tender Care here in Marshall. We're praying for the repose of the soul of Keith Ferguson, Vicky Ann Weekly, maiden name Face, and Dr. John McClay. May they rest in peace and rise in glory. The Lord be with you. and also with you. Let us pray. Heavenly Father, we give you thanks for this time. We give you thanks for this technology that helps us to connect. And we give you thanks for the community that you have established between us. Please be with those prayer concerns that we have listed tonight. Be with each of those institutions and individuals according to their needs and according to your will. We ask that you continue to be with us as well, to remind us of your love and your care, to remind us that you are journeying along with us. Help us to be strong and brave and wise as we endeavor to serve you, particularly in the areas of justice and reconciliation. We ask all these things in your precious and holy name. Amen. And then in our Compline prayers, O God, your unfailing providence sustains the world we live in and the life we live. Watch over those both night and day who work while others sleep, and grant that we may never forget that our common life depends upon each other's toil. Through Jesus Christ our Lord. Amen. So the hymn that I have tonight, I'm sorry I don't have lyrics for you, but as you know, we are moving from phase 1 to phase 2 in our church's response to the coronavirus, which means very shortly we'll be able to worship in the church building itself. Now the vestry is still talking about what those details will involve. So we're not announcing dates yet because we want to make sure that we're really ready before we get a whole bunch of people together, or even any people together. And that readiness isn't just about safety, it's also about being able to engage in worship in a way that is actually edifying and somewhat low stress, I hope. But there's so much that has to change as we worship in the building. We want to make sure that we really feel prepared, including me, that I feel very prepared. We will continue to stream during that time. But as I have been thinking about the prospect of being in that space again, and the prospect of having communion again, which I'm very excited about, this tune kind of came into my head because it's going to, the process of getting back into the building is going to involve lots of spiritual and physical work to prepare the space. So the song today is called Deck Thyself, my soul with gladness. It's a German tune, and the German tune name is Schmücke dich. If I remember correctly, I'd have to look it up, but I think, even if I'm wrong, what it sparks in my head, Schmuck is, I think it's decoration, like jewelry can be Schmuck. So I think of us making ourselves pretty, making our souls pretty. Deck thyself, my soul, with gladness. Letting our gladness about gathering together enhance the experience of worshiping. And of course, to bedeck oneself is to make oneself ready. But that's also what we need to do in the church. Right now, the church's vestments that are out there are purple from Lent. And it's not Lent anymore. so there's lots of readiness to do. And so I have this tune in my head as I try to make myself ready. So I share it with you. It's hymn number 339. And I am sorry I didn't write it down. I don't have a card to write it down on tonight. But it's 339 if you're singing along with your hymnal. And if you're not singing along from a hymnal, I hope that you'll still enjoy worshiping with me for this last piece. You ready? Deck thyself, my soul, with gladness. Leave the gloomy haunts of sadness. Come into the daylight splendor. There with joy thy praises render. Unto him who yet to dwell with thee daily. Sun, who all my life dost brighten, light, who dost my soul enlighten, joy the best that any knoweth, fount whence all my being floweth. At thy feet I cry, my Maker, let me be a fit partaker of this blessed food from heaven, for a good thy glory given. Jesus, bread of life, I pray thee, let me gladly here obey thee. Never to my hurt invited, be thy love with love requited. From this banquet let me measure, Lord, how vast and deep its treasure. Through the gifts thou here dost give me, as thy guest in heaven receive me. That is one of my favorites. And I already told you why. Oh, Debbie. So Debbie is saying that she's less familiar with that. I'm sure we've done it before, but clearly we need to do it more often. I'm glad you like it. We can certainly sing it more. And I'll have to mark that because Debbie has sung in the choir for a long time. And if it's less familiar to Debbie, then it's likely to be even less familiar to the parish. So I'm going to go put a little star in my book so that I remember to ask Randy to put that in the lineup even more and more. So George is very familiar with it. And that's something that we've run into a couple times at Trinity, where Trinity specifically has its own kind of favorites and its own musical culture. And there were things that I was very familiar with from growing up at St. Matthias and Waukesha that were unfamiliar at Trinity. And of course, because I've been now in, 1, 2, 3, this is my 4th state, and I've been in multiple churches in lots of different contexts, I get a different mix of hymns than other people who've been in a more stable community. So I'm happy to add that to the lineup. And George, if you have favorites that we should add, make sure you let me know. Go ahead and comment them so we can make sure they get in the lineup as well. Some of them I'm sure will be favorites of Trinity as well, but you never know. Sometimes there are these weird, sneaky hymns that are not as familiar in one community when they're very familiar in the other. So thank you so much for spending the end of your day with me. It's been lovely to see you and to tell stories and to sing with you. I look forward to being able to really see you for real soon. Like I said, I'm not sharing dates about that quite yet, about when Trinity specifically is going to be worshiping in person. But we're getting close and making concrete action plans right now. So I hope to do so very soon. Have a wonderful evening. Stay dry. I think a storm just passed through. I saw a little bit of lightning out there, but it doesn't seem to have messed with our internet, which is nice so far. I hope that you're all doing well and that you're healthy. And I will see you tomorrow. Okay, take care. Good night.